So, Mr. Copperfield, so I understand, the numbers that have been put forth by your attorneys, and even prior to the lawsuit starting, the numbers that we were discussing, you understand that, correct?
Understand.
That those were the numbers that I was discussing with you.
55,000.
And 96,000, okay? And those numbers, were those numbers that you told your attorneys from your recollection?
I don't recall.
Well, the numbers, were the numbers researched? Did you look at a computer? Did you search records to come up with the statement that during all of these participants, no one's ever been injured? Did you do some research? Yes or no?
It was simple math.
Simple math. Does that mean no, I didn't do any research, I figured out how many shows I had and I multiplied?
Again, I believe it was Mr. Kenner that
Okay.
did that.
Now, okay, so now Mr. Kenner actually works for Backstage Employment, is that correct?
Correct.
Do you own Backstage? Okay. And you are the president and only employee of David Copperfield Disappearing Inc., who's being sued in this case, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you do understand, Mr. Copperfield, that you personally are being sued in this case and are a defendant. You understand that, right?
I don't understand that.
You don't understand that? Well, do you know that you are being sued personally in this case and that you are a defendant? Do you know that?
I don't.
Would I be correct, sir, that if your recollection is mistaken, that the numbers would be inaccurate? Does that sound right?
Objection made. Sustained.
If the numbers that are being proffered with reference to how many people have participated without being injured comes from your recollection, and your recollection is faulty, the numbers would be wrong. Is that correct?
It's not correct.
Are you saying that these numbers are fact, or they're just from your recollection?
We did math, and we came up with those numbers.
I'm talking about you now, okay? And when you say we, you're talking about you and Mr. Kenner? Okay. You're not talking about anybody else, right? Just you?
I really don't recall. It's common knowledge that we perform.
I'm talking about the information that you are giving. You came up with the numbers, you and Mr. Kenner.
I didn't come up with the numbers. I spoke to Mr. Kenner and did simple math.
Okay, so let me just understand, all right? You didn't come up with the numbers, Mr. Kenner came up with the numbers, is that correct?
No, we just generally looked at how many shows we did and did the mathematics, and that's...
But you see, look, Mr. Copperfield, I'm not at all questioning how many shows you've done. Do we understand each other? Yes?
You're not questioning.
I'm not
shows.
questioning how many shows you've done, correct? Or how many years you've done the shows. Do we understand each other? Right? That's not the issue. The issue is not simple math. The issue is whether or not anyone before Mr. Cox has ever fallen. You said no. Okay. The second question is, has anyone before Mr. Cox fallen and been injured? And your answer is the same, not to your knowledge. Is that correct?
That's true.
Okay. Now, if in fact your knowledge is faulty, then it could be true that it's not a fact. Is that true? Does that make sense to you?
Objection vague and ambiguous.
If he understands the question,
I didn't understand the question.
Okay. When you learned, you say about a year later, that Mr. Cox had fallen and been injured, were you surprised? Yes or no? Were you surprised?
Yes.
Okay. And if you learned that someone else other than Mr. Cox, prior to Mr. Cox falling and being injured, had fallen and been injured, would that surprise you?
It would surprise me.
Okay. Because you have no way of knowing that someone has fallen and been injured. Is that true? You have no way of knowing.
That's not true.
Okay. You do have a way of knowing. You do have a way of knowing. And what is that? Do you have records that you keep? Someone fell but they weren't injured. Someone fell and they were injured. You keep records like that?
It would depend.
Mr. Copperfield, just my question. Do you have records that say someone has fallen during the illusion, the 13th illusion? Do you have records like that?
That would be the theater that would have a record.
I'm talking about you personally. You've been sued personally. Your company has been sued personally.
If I got sued, I would know, and I've never been sued for anybody falling or getting injured on a solution.
Okay. So now you're saying not that no one's ever fallen and been injured. Now you're saying no one's ever fallen and been injured and sued you. Is that your testimony now?
Objection argument as phrased.
sustained.
Is your testimony that you've never been sued? Yes or no?
For what? In my life?
No, not in your life.
Ask the question again.
No, we're only talking about this. We're only talking about
I've never been sued
this illusion.
for this illusion.
Okay, so yours, let me just understand. If somebody has been injured and they didn't make a claim, you wouldn't know about it.
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Would you know if someone got injured during the 13 illusion? Generally, would you know?
Objection calls for speculation and vague and overbroad.
I'll sustain the objection.
This is your illusion, correct? This is something that is your baby, right? You made it your own. Is that correct? You made it your own. True?
So what's the question?
Okay? Am I correct?
What's the question again, please? Re-ask.
Okay? This illusion, the 13, is your illusion. You made it your own. Correct?
Two
Objection
questions.
vague.
Two questions.
Am I correct that you are the one who set the route to the 13 illusion, no matter where it's run?
I looked at the route after it was set by stage management.
So what you're saying is that you have nothing to do with setting the route. It's all the stagehands that decide the illusion and how it's done. Yes or no?
That's not what I said.
Yeah. But, Mr. Copperfield, you would agree with me, would you not, that you personally and your company are ultimately responsible for how your illusions are performed? Is that correct? That you're ultimately responsible?
Objection, Your Honor, goes to the question for a jury.
I'll sustain that. You can use a different word.
Is it your responsibility to make sure that the route that the participants are taking is safe? Yes or no?
I check the route myself every show.
I didn't ask you that. I asked you whether or not. Can I have the question read back, Your Honor, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Question, is it your responsibility to make sure that the route that the participants are taking is safe, yes or no?
Yes.
And so, if you do that, then you would be responsible, would you not, if it were unsafe? Does that make sense?
Objection, incomplete hypothetical
I
and
don't know what that means.
I'll sustain the objection.
On
Your Honor, may we approach?
I think you're using the wrong word, counsel. You're using a legal word.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Responsible is a
No, just
legal
ask
word.
another question, okay? Ask another question.
All right.
You can question about the concept, but use a different word. Okay?
Okay. The people who are selected to participate on the route, is it important for you to make sure they're safe? Is it important to you to make sure they're safe?
Yes.
Do you consider that your responsibility?
Objection, legal conclusion.
Sustained.
There have been a number of times that fewer people reappear than have started the illusion. Is that correct?
Yes.
Many fewer. And
I agree.
is that because the screening process misjudged these people in being able to fulfill what they had to do?
I wouldn't say so.
Actually, you would say that it's the participants who misjudged what they had to do. Is that correct?
I wouldn't put it that way.
Well, did you ever say that? Did you ever say it in your deposition? Did you ever say that the participants misjudged their abilities? Is that
I don't.
a statement that you've made ever?
I don't recall.
Yeah. We can't put it up, I gotta. Your Honor, I'm gonna mark this for identification and show it to the witness.
You can show it to counsel.
They know what it is. We've given it to them.
the sidebar?
All right.
Now, Mr. Copperfield, I'm going to show you this document, give you a chance to read it.
Do not read that one.
Read it only to yourself,
I
okay?
think Your Honor, this would be 97 for ID. It's an addition, yeah.
You can read the whole thing, and you just tell me when you're ready. Okay. My question, Mr. Copperfield, is just, does looking at that document refresh your recollection as to whether or not there's ever been a claim made against you with reference to the 13 illusion? Does it refresh your recollection?
Does not.
You want to take it back, Counsel?
Sure. 98
For identification.
for identification. Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Copperfield, I'm going to show you this document, and I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked the last document that I showed you. But I ask you to read the whole thing first before I ask you a question. Does, after reading this, does it refresh your recollection as to whether or not anyone ever made a claim against you with reference to this illusion prior to Mr. Cox?
Absolutely not.
It doesn't refresh your recollection?
She's not.
Okay. Now, when the 13 illusion is done, part of the time the participants are running outside, from the inside to the outside and back into the inside, correct?
I wouldn't call it running.
Okay.
In every case.
So that we understand, you're saying that sometimes the participants run, correct?
Sometimes they choose to run.
Yeah, and sometimes they don't, correct?
That's
But if they run, it's on them. Is that, because you just want to know what your position is. That's all I'm trying to find out, okay? Am I correct that the participants are not encouraged to run? Is that true? Or are they encouraged to run? Which one?
I think they make their own decision.
Okay, so they're not encouraged to run, they decide themselves whether they want to run, correct?
Or to take shows, some people walk them briskly, some people take them their time. And that's the nature of every time we've done anything like that.
Mr. Copperfield, all I want to know is if the participants run, it's on them, it's not on you. Is that a correct statement?
Is what on
Objection
In
made.
other words,
Sustained, on, clarify what on means.
on them means you are not responsible. That's what on them means. That they're responsible because they decided to run. Is that right? Is that your position? That if they decide to run, they're responsible, not you?
Objection safe, calls for a legal conclusion.
Oh, wow.
It's just yes or no. If it's on them, it's on them. If it's on you, it's on you. But tell me.
If there's any negligence, it's on me. You know, it depends on the facts.
Okay. Now, if in fact the stagehands, the people who are helping you with this illusion, are encouraging the participants to run, is that something that would still, in your opinion, be the participants' fault? Do you understand my question? Okay. Let me try again. What I'm saying is, if you knew that the stagehands who are running along with the participants or moving along with them are encouraging them to run, would that make you decide that it's not the participants' fault because they're being encouraged to run? You understand me now?
Objection incomplete, hypothetical.
Overruled.
I don't know about fault
Okay,
here.
it's okay. But you used the word negligent. I didn't. You did. Okay? So, seeing that you used that word, let's use that word because you don't know fault. So, if in fact the people who are working with you are encouraging the participants to run, would that make you responsible if something happened to them?
Could you define encouraging? What would that mean?
Run, run, run!
Objection as to the phrase for a term.
Yeah, that's,
What's the objection?
The use of the word responsible.
yeah.
Okay, I'll overrule the objection and allow him to speak his understanding.
Would you say that it's encouragement if the people who are working with you, for you, are yelling, run? Would that make them and you responsible if something happened to them? That's my question.
Objection invades the province of the jury.
I'll sustain the objection.
Would it be your fault if in fact they're encouraging these people to run and something happens to them where they're injured? Would it be your fault?
Same objection.
Sustained.
Do you know, Mr. Copperfield, that these stagehands do yell for them to run? Do you know that? Okay.
This is from Mr. Kenner's deposition, page 49, line 21. Tell me when you guys are ready. 49. Line 21.
Hold on one moment.
You good?
Okay.
Okay. This is from his deposition.
Yeah.
Okay. Just, you could look at the screen, Mr. Copperfield. This is a question and answer from Mr. Kenner's deposition. Line 21 is the question. That's fine, but you ever heard them yell run for them to get through the, yeah, I think they might have yelled run. Is Mr. Kenner wrong? Is he wrong?
Objection.
Join.
Ask what he's heard.
Do you want to rephrase?
Sure. Mr. Kenner says that you might have heard them yell run. Now, have you ever heard them yell run?
I'm a magician, but I don't have extra years outside the building, so. This is not talking about the whole time.
Mr. Copperfield, it's okay. You answered me. You don't have X-ray ears. I heard you. I do. Now, am I correct, sir, that no, am I correct that you have the power to hire and fire all the backstage employees?
Objection, asked and answered on Wednesday.
Joy.
Well, this is a premise for a new series of questions, as I understand.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Please repeat the question.
Sure. Am I correct, sir, that you have the power to hire and fire the backstage employees?
I think I've answered that question already.
Well, that's what your lawyer just said, but if I'm not questioning them, I'm questioning you. So, I think that you understand my question. All I want is an answer, whatever it is.
My protocol is to talk to backstage president, stage management. I get their advice, I give my advice, and decision is made in kind of a group effort. And ultimately, it's backstage entires.
That's his position. Okay.
Page 26, line 17 of Mr. Copperfield's deposition. Yeah.
You have to make it bigger. Okay, I'm just,
I haven't read it yet.
okay, so,
Your Honor, I would ask that only the question and answer relevant here be published. There's some leaking of other testimony that's coming up on the screen and the
You
next.
want to tell counsel what you're referencing now?
yeah. Sure.
Are we aware?
No leaking here.
It's page 26. Mr.
Jerry.
George,
Jerry.
17 to 23.
Jerry.
Right.
17 to 23.
That's like the best I can do. Is that good? Doesn't look beautiful, but it does the trick.
No trick references. Okay, so, you can read it on your screen, okay? So this is a question that you were asked at your deposition on 17. Question, so you're the guy, all these people are working at your direction, correct? Answer, they're following the rules that were set forth by the whole team, the protocol that was created by the whole team. Ultimately, yeah. So I do have the say-so, who to hire and fire. You know, I guess the answer would be yes. Okay, so is the answer yes, that you have the say-so, the ability to hire and fire the employees of Backstage Employment? Yes or no?
Look at the nuance of the entire thing. The answer has to be-
I read it to the jury, they've seen it, they've heard it, I've read it, you've read it.
Yes.
My question is it true that you have the ability to hire and fire the backstage employees? Yes or no? I
It's not
understand the
a- sorry,
nuance.
sorry. It's not a yes or no question.
Okay, so,
There's
you
a
don't
nuance
have,
to it.
okay,
First part is very, very important.
okay. Now, this was your whole answer, correct? No one cut you off? That was your answer?
I'm not sure.
At your deposition?
I'm not sure
Okay,
if they were doing this or I'm not sure.
okay.
It's really a team effort.
Now, am I correct that with reference to the route going outside, that you have a second route, an alternate route, if you will, that the participants can run if it's raining out? Is that true?
That's not accurate.
Okay.
There's more to, I have to explain that in more detail.
Okay. Is there a second route that is used if it's raining out? Just yes or no. If there
It's not a
is,
yes-
there is.
It's not a yes or no question, it takes an explanation so they really have the facts.
Do you agree with Mr. Kenner that if it's light rain, the participants can still run outside in the light rain? Do you agree with him? Yes or no? Is he right or is he wrong?
We can't have a disappearing audience dry and reappearing audience wet. When they reappear, they can't be wet outside. It
Okay.
would not be much of an illusion.
So is that a yes? You disagree that the participants would be still running outside if it's light rain? You disagree with that?
I'm confused.
Okay.
You can't have an audience, dry audience reappearing in wet.
We heard that
In-
the
in a
first
minute-
time.
In a minute and a half of time.
We understand, we heard you. You can't have a wet audience after they were dry. We understand that. My question to you is, Mr. Kenner testified that if it's light rain, the participants still run outside. Is he right?
Define light rain. We know.
I get it. It's okay. If it's moderate rain, he says they can still run outside. Is he right or is he wrong?
I don't know what moderate rain is.
Okay.
I mean, just, it's logical. It's
So
logical.
is it your testimony that any rain at all, they don't run outside?
That's not my testimony.
Sorry?
That is not my testimony.
Okay. Do they run outside even if it's raining? Yes or no?
Not a yes or no question.
Have you ever known that the participants ran outside when it was raining? Yes or no?
It depends on the degree of drizzly. If it's misting outside, then I think they would do it.
We're talking about rain now, okay? If it's raining at all, if it's raining lightly, moderately, heavily, or anything, do the participants run outside or never if there's any rain?
If they were to appear wet, there's no illusion. Therefore, that would give you an idea of the amount of rain. If it was like,
Mr. Copperfield, I'm asking you a question. Now, am I correct, sir, that you stated earlier that safety is very important to you? Is that correct?
100%.
Okay. So let's forget about your illusion being messed up by them appearing wet. Let's talk about whether or not you feel that it may be somewhat unsafe for participants to be running outside on concrete if it's raining. Do you consider it somewhat unsafe? Yes or no?
Case by case judgment. Concrete absorbs.
Mr.
Concrete absorbs
Mr. Copperfield,
water.
look, I'm trying my best, okay? All I'm asking you is whether or not, if people are running outside on concrete, and you know the route, okay, at the MGM Greg, if it's raining, would that be somewhat unsafe?
Objection, calls for speculation, lacks
Sustained.
foundation.
Have you ever decided for the participants to take an alternate route because of the weather outside?
At the MGM, no.
Okay.
I would have had not.
It's okay, you're asking.
They would have reappeared.
Yeah. Is it brief?
No.
Okay, it's too long. Now, am I correct that oftentimes many don't appear at the back of the theater who have been chosen to be in the illusion? Is that correct?
You're not correct.
Okay. Can you give that testimony?
It's not many times.
My question was, many don't appear in the back of the theater. Not many times, many don't appear in the back of the theater. That means people, okay? Is that correct or incorrect?
Ask the full question, please.
Am I correct that there are times that many of the participants don't appear in the back of the theater?
Very few times.
There are times, but not that many. Is that your answer? There are times, but not that many.
That's good.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second.
Okay. Are you aware that on occasion, someone during participation in the route of the illusion has lost a heel? Are you familiar with that?
Ask it one more time, the question.
Yes. I said, do you know that during the illusion, during the route, that on occasion, someone has lost a heel to their shoe, a heel?
I'm unaware.
Huh?
Unaware.
Page 165, line 8.
Yes.
165, line 8.
2.
Line 17.
Okay.
No objection.
No objection.
Well. So when I read this, my question to you, Mr. Copperfield, is do you remember being asked this question and giving this answer at your deposition? Okay, that's my question. You understood, did you not, that at your deposition you were under oath just like today?
100%.
100%. Okay. So here's the question on line 8. What sort of explanation have you been provided in instances where the illusion took longer than you had anticipated. Okay? So the question was about an explanation, correct? Correct? And the answer was, it was somebody lost their heel. You said that, correct? Their shoes were defective, you know. And we had to slow down to make sure that person was okay or stopped. They had to make a decision. The person shouldn't participate, so they waited. Okay? You want to say, you stay here. That few seconds takes time. Did you say that? Does that refresh your memory that someone had lost a heel and you actually volunteered that answer?
I took the question as a hypothetical. Maybe you misunderstood it.
It's okay.
But I think
You misunderstood it. I understand.
No. I took it as a hypothetical thing of what we would do as a process, but
Gotcha. Got it. So this wasn't really accurate. It was just a hypothetical on your part.
it says, what sort of explanation have you been provided?
Mr. Copperfield, I'm just trying to understand your answer, that's all.
This is
Am I
what would
correct?
happen if
Right.
somebody lost.
This is a hypothetical. It's not that it ever happened to anybody.
That's how I understood it.
Okay, all right, I understand. So, as you sit here today, do you know whether or not this has ever happened, that somebody has lost a heel? Has it ever happened?
Not that I recall. There was no injury because of it. There was no, no foul. It would happen anyway.
What would have happened anyway? Losing a heel, you mean?
It would happen on the way into your, down the street. It would happen.
Mm-hmm.
We've all experienced, me too, losing my heel, the shorter heels, but
Right.
things have happened.
Right. But this didn't really happen. This is a hypothetical.
I don't recall. This answer was based.
Mr. Copperfield, I'm just trying to understand. You stated earlier that this was just a hypothetical.
That's how I understood. I understood it as a hypothetical.
Okay, that's all right.
And to show what we would have done
I understand.
if he lost a heel. The safety was more important than the illusion completion.
I
Which is
understand.
really, really our.
So here's my question to you. Okay? My question was, did this ever happen? And now you're saying it never happened?
Not that I can recall.
You don't recall if it ever happened?
No, because nothing.
I
No
understand.
one was hurt.
I got it. Yeah, I understand.
It's noon now, council, should be
Yes, Your Honor, that's fine.
recess now for lunch, ladies and gentlemen, and we're in the 1:30. During the recess, we're admonished not to toss and person on yourselves,